Hey, this is Matt once again. What about 10 of the videos? Another paid request. This time for Ben. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this time is for the 1977 film Sorcerer, which I had seen before. I did not remember much about it except the one scene with the truck going over the bridge. Watch it again. I could see why that was the only scene I remember, because the rest of it didn't really do much for me. And I know a lot of people love the film. I'm not one of them. I've never been a big fan of this movie. And I know this is a time when directors had carte blanche to do pretty much whatever they wanted. And sadly, that kind of hurt it for a lot of people. I mean, I know a lot of these films are beloved later, but at the time, sadly, a lot of times when people go, well, why don't they give directors more creative control? Because they did at the time, and you had films like Heaven's Gate, Michael Cimino's film, that crippled a studio for how big of a bomb it was. Scorsese had what, New York, New York, or something like that. They didn't do anything. Some people do musicals and they didn't do anything. And then a film like this, Sorcerer, that was a complete utter bomb. I mean, it came out a month or so after Star Wars. That didn't help because people looked at the spectacle of Star Wars and then they see something like this. They go, well, this doesn't seem much of anything compared to Star Wars. And William Friedkin, I'll be honest, was never one of my favorite directors. May you rest in peace. I love The Hunted. That's my favorite of his, which Ben wants me to do a commentary on. That'll be in the future. I like Jade. I don't mind To Live and Die in L.A. The French Connection I thought was okay, mainly for the performances of Gene Hackman and Roy Scheider. They're good. I actually prefer the sequel, The French Connection 2. The Exorcist I was never a fan of. I much prefer the third one. The third Exorcist is really the only one I truly love of that franchise. And I didn't mind The Guardian, but again, he's not in my top 10 directors. And when I see this film, I think of two things: the truck sequence, filled with dynamite, going over the bridge with all the rain and wind, slowly going over the tires, sometimes crunching through the boards, sometimes the bridge swaying over this way. That's a very well directed and effective sequence. But I think that scene is better than the movie. Because the rest of the movie I felt was overlong. I thought was rather boring. I mean, the first 30 minutes is an introduction to these characters, but yet these characters still are not that interesting. They're not that intriguing to me. Even though we're spending time, it's like, okay, I know the vague elements of their characters, but I still have no iota of care about them. One person is an assassin. Why is he an assassin? Blah, blah. You're not supposed to care, I guess. One's a bomber, and his other guys, they bomb a place, and his other buddies are caught, and he escapes. One is a possible fraudster. He's trying to get his buddy to say, hey, can you talk to this person? It didn't work out, so that person blew their brains out, and this guy finds the body, and he runs off. Roy Scheider, who I love, but I love him more for Jaws, Blue Thunder, 2010, the year we made contact. Those films I truly enjoy. This, he's a wheelman, and there was a robbery, there's a scuffle, Roy Scheider crashes a car, he gets out, he meets up with a buddy, he says, you don't go here, I don't know where it's at, pretty much you don't want me to know where you're at. And this is all like in a span of 30 some minutes. And then we're in Colombia, which I will admit, it's well filmed cinematography wise, where you really get the sense of poverty. And there's these oil companies working there, and there's this big massive explosion done for real. And so the goal is that we have 200 miles to get this dynamite, that we can't fly it because it's too sensitive. So we have to traverse over 200 miles. And you think, okay, the setup. You have two trucks, 200 miles to traverse. Where if this dynamite goes too discombobulated, it'll blow up. That seems like it should be a big, suspenseful set of sequences. But it really isn't. I mean, Tangerine Dream score is fantastic. I'll agree with that. It's the score you hear in the Warriors trailer to the 70s film The Warriors. If you watch that trailer now on YouTube, if you hear that piece of score, that's from this movie. It's a really eerie score. It feels like it belongs in a horror movie. But a lot of the movie is just sadly a slog to sit through. They don't start their journey until like over an hour in the movie. Like the most interesting part of the film doesn't start till over an hour. I know the first I was supposed to build up these characters, but can I really say I give a shit about these characters? Even Roy Scheider? Not really. Not really. I like the actor more than the character. I'll put it that way. And they're doing their driver's test to show that they can drive these trucks. And that's pretty much it for the first hour and change of the movie. So when you get to the second half, it's really three things that happen. Well, four things, I should say. Four things that happen. There's the bridge in the rain, which is the big scene in the movie that people remember. And in fact, it's such an effective scene, the rest of the movie can't capture that amount of suspense, that amount of what they had to do practically to make the truck seem like it was going to tip over, and the second truck where the guy's right in front of it, and you think, is he going to get run over? Oh shit, he's going to get run over. Oh, he makes it, and the guy sees in the nick of time, and the guy's putting up boards on the last minute to go over. Because after that, the other bits is they find a tree, they gotta blow up the tree. Spoilers, the second truck is driving, a tire's blown out. You don't even get a reaction of horror, terror, trying to jump out. It's just the truck just swerves and it blows up. You don't even get a reaction, auditory wise, visual wise, of them reacting. It's just tire blowing out. Not even like people trying to get out. No, just that's it. And the last one is Roy Scheider and this other guy, which there's really no interactions between the characters. There's really no dialogue between the characters. Just that this assassin you don't really trust as much because he had killed one guy to take his place, but they still go along with this guy. That's as much as I could say about the interaction of the characters. Maybe the one guy shows the other guy his watch before they die. That's it. And so Roy Scheider and this guy gets hijacked, and the assassin kills some. Roy Scheider smashes the shit out of one with a shovel. So then he drives off. The guy dies of his wounds. He's hallucinating. He gets to the thing with the dynamite, goes up, and is able to get to this fire that needs to be blown up with the dynamite. It just didn't seem that big. It didn't feel like they went 200 miles when, these things, like, it was these two hurdles, then one got blown up, and the one with some hijackers where most of them hijackers of the other guy died. It just didn't seem enough. It didn't seem that grand or that big of a turmoil. It didn't seem that big of a horrific journey. Then have me buy into Roy Scheider's psychology of having hallucinations and all this stuff going on. Honestly, there was a part of me was like, why the hell is he having hallucinations? But, I mean, that's just me. And then on top of that, even if you did care about Roy Scheider's character, it doesn't matter because he gets his money. He has a dance with a girl in this bar. And you get the idea that the men who are trying to find him do find him, thanks to his buddy from earlier in the film. They go into the club. You get the idea that Roy Scheider shot and killed. And then Sorcerer. And I get the idea behind the film before people, you don't get it. It's about fate. And that's why it's called Sorcerer. So Sorcerer's like an evil, a magician. Think of an evil magician. Only here it's, fate. It's how William Friedkin tried to describe it. And about how no one can escape their fate. And no matter what these guys do, and no matter how hard they're trying to survive, shit happens. You could go from XYZ and all of a sudden something happens and you're dead. Life ain't fair. Shit happens. That's just how it goes. You know what? That's right. That is how it goes. Doesn't mean I personally enjoy that as a narrative or as a story. It just seems very much of a cruel streak. A mean streak. But again, at the same time, I'm like, I didn't really care about Roy Scheider's character anyway, so whoopee. And that's the thing, is that I'm watching this, I'm going, I don't care. If it was over 2 hours long, I give credit to the score, and I give credit to the bridge scene. That's it. Other than those two things, it was a shitty title as well. That's probably why it bombed. Because Sorcerer, yeah, it's the name, I think, of one of the trucks, but it doesn't really fit this movie, Sorcerer. Number one, people thought it was another Exorcist type of movie. Oh, he did The Exorcist? Now we have Sorcerer. But, of course, it has nothing to do with the paranormal, nothing to do with supernatural. So some people probably felt tricked. Just a bad title. Again, Star Wars swallowed it up. In my opinion, deservedly so, because I do think Star Wars, I do think is the better movie than this. It's not that I'm against movies in the 70s. I enjoy All the President's Men, and Justice for All, Assault on Precinct 13. And again, this type of style, I think Michael Mann did this type of stuff better. Again, films like Manhunter and Thief and things of that nature. It's about false promises. No matter how you struggle, you could just get blown up. I get that. It's just not really the narrative I really care to see or care to participate in. So, okay, the director wants to go that way, that's fine. Doesn't mean I have to agree or care about the journey. Okay, that's the journey you wanted to take, William Friedkin. Doesn't mean I agree or care for it or am that interested in it. Again, it takes forever to get going. Even with all his 30 minutes, I still barely know these characters, which is the weird thing. He spends so much with these backgrounds of these characters, and I just know that, okay, they've done bad things. So then you're thinking, why should I care about what they go through? But even a film like Reservoir Dogs would do that. But then you would have this really interesting dialogue and exchanges that even though they're not, quote, likable people, they're at least interesting people. I didn't even find these characters interesting. They're just kind of blank vessels for Friedkin's story, and the story's just a very downbeat, cynical, nihilistic ending. And again, if you're looking for action, there's a couple cool explosions and there's a good bridge scene. I would much rather just listen to the score than watch this movie ever again. Again, I just thought it was a slog to sit through. It wasn't my cup of tea. It wasn't for me. Sorry. So, with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.